This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It is Jake, your host. Today's episode, I hope, will encourage and inspire you that a small moment in time can have a huge life-changing impact, not only on your life in a positive way, but literally on hundreds and thousands of lives for the years to come, simply by you taking time to say yes to something that you're not 100% certain what it looks like. So this is actually, it made me think about how, when I was talking with Brian on this episode, it made me think about how I started this podcast. And it was my coaching group that I was in, and one of the guys that leads the coaching group is, hugely successful in his life and business. He said, all great change in your life usually starts with immediate massive action. And I sat there and I thought, there's a lot of truth to that. And within 24 hours, I had ordered the podcast equipment that I did not know how to use, was trying to figure out how to get all of this set up between the editing, the recording, the music, all of these different things, but it was all from the heart of, I want to make life better for people in our community, in the North Georgia region. And I think this is a tangible way that makes sense in our culture to do it. Meaning, people are listening to podcasts. They're doing these sorts of things on the weekends and on their way to work and that sort of thing. And it's going to give people exposure to not only tell their stories about what they're doing and why they're doing it and where they came from, but it's going to hopefully build an affinity to those organizations, and especially nonprofits like this. One of the things I love about Sleep in Heavenly Peace, which is the focus of today's episode, is they have chapters all around the country, multiple chapters here in Georgia, and they're somewhere close to you. And a lot of us don't even know what it is or that they exist. And when you hear the story about what they're doing and how impactful it can be in keeping a family together, like what greater thing can you offer our community than a few hours on a Saturday or donation here or there to be able to say, I can't do everything, but I can do something to help families in our community stay together. And I have become increasingly aware of this organization over the last year. Our office, my real estate office, I work out of a Keller Williams office. We have a nonprofit leg of Keller Williams called Cares for Kids, which part of what I love about Keller Williams and what they do to be active in our community is Cares for Kids. Every office has their own Cares for Kids ambassador within the office, but we raise money throughout the year and do things that are in our local community for children. So some of it, like this time of year, is backpacks. There's Christmas presents and all sorts of different things throughout the year that most of the time nobody knows about, and that's not why we do it, but it gives us a tangible means of doing an outreach specifically to help kids in our local community. So all the money raised in what we do goes to directly impacting our local community and the children in our local community. And Sleep in Heavenly Peace is very similar to that. I actually found out about a month ago, one of our fall events is coming up, I think in October, with Sleep in Heavenly Peace. So our office, I'm actually going to see Brian in about a month or so. Our office is working with Sleep in Heavenly Peace to build beds and distribute them in our local community. And I can't wait for it to get here. I'm certain that when you hear the story of how this all came to be and what they do and why they do it, I hope that for those of us who know people who are in whatever season of life, whether it's a season of life where they're prospering financially, or they just have time, or they want to do something instructive with their family on the weekend for a few hours, that you can become involved in something like this that really is providing one of the basic gifts that we can all have, which is our families staying together. And when it's something as simple as a bed that can be the result of a child being taken from their family or being able to keep that family united, it doesn't get a whole lot more simple than that. So with that, we'll get started. Thank you for all of you who are sharing this with your friends, family members, coworkers, people, neighbors, people in the area. The audience is growing every episode, and I'm grateful for that. I'm not selling anything on this, so I'm just doing this to try to make our community a better place to live, giving you access to people that are making our communities extra special, and this is no exception to that. So you know how to find us online: Facebook, Instagram, North Georgia Life Podcast. You can email us any suggestions for future episodes at northgeorgialifepodcast@gmail.com. And I've got a couple, I'm still trying to firm up dates, but a couple really amazing, stupid, fascinating. Amazing, stupid, fascinating. That should be on a t-shirt. Episodes coming up here in the next few weeks. So stay tuned. With that, we'll get started with Sleep in Heavenly Peace and Brian Buckwalter. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It's Jake, your host, and today's episode is going to be, in my opinion, it is one of the best kept secrets that is in our region, and probably because it's not just in our region. This would be something that you could connect people with that live outside of our North Georgia region, that have an interest in serving others in a unique and tangible way, and in other states. So this is not just a, for lack of a better term, mom and pop nonprofit. This is an organization that is in multiple states, and we're going to tell you a little bit about the story. So without further ado, we are with Brian Buckwalter, who is the chapter president, the Gwinnett chapter president of an organization, a nonprofit called Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And if you rewind almost a year to listen to the episode with Gene Rector with Promise 686, Gene talks about this organization and their partnership with Promise 686. So if you want a little bit of a blast from the past, but a really good story as well, you can go listen to Gene's story from last fall on Promise 686. But Brian, thanks for your time. So you and I have a little bit in common because we're both, as I call, transplants.
Yes.
We're not Georgia natives. We both actually grew up, oddly enough, very, very close by in the southeast Pennsylvania area. So we've been here for a while. And tell us a little bit about how you got to Georgia to begin with.
Oh, well, I mean, I got to Georgia by way of New York, by way of Washington, D.C., by way of California, Japan, Afghanistan. So I'm actually active duty military. I'm active duty Marine Corps. I've been serving for the past 19 years. And Georgia is where the Marine Corps told me to go. And that's how we got here. So we've been here about 2 years now. And finishing up my last duty station here. Okay.
And just out of curiosity, what made you join the Marine Corps?
Oh man. So I was going to college in 1998 and made it through maybe about a year and a half, and it just wasn't for me at the time. So I wound up dropping out, moving back home, back to Phoenixville, which is kind of near where you grew up. And I needed to do something to be a catalyst in my life, and I didn't know what that was. And I just so happened to be taking one community college class and I met a Marine Corps reservist there. And I just got to talking to him, and it had never crossed my mind before, believe it or not, to even consider the military as an option. But the way he talked about it, I went to a recruiter in Westchester and basically made the decision then that the Marine Corps was what I was going to do. And I thought it was going to be a short-term thing, maybe do 4 years and that would be all I have. And fast forward, it's been the best decision I've ever made. So, yeah. Well,
thank you for your service. So I don't get sidetracked and forget to say that. So you've just kind of traveled around with the Marine Corps. You're here in Georgia. At what point did Sleep in Heavenly Peace kind of cross your radar?
So I was sitting on a couch back in October of 2018, just scrolling through Facebook. It was late in the evening. My wife and I were just kind of sitting there and, going through our Facebook feeds. And I came across this episode of a show called Returning the Favor. It's from Mike Rowe, if you remember Dirty Jobs fame and Deadliest Catch. And he had started a Facebook show called Returning the Favor. And this episode came up, and I don't know what made me really just stop and start watching it, but it was about this organization called Sleep in Heavenly Peace and this guy named Luke Mickelson. And I jump into this and I just start watching it. And 20 minutes later, I'm sitting on the couch with tears in my eyes, grabbing the tissues and saying, we need to do something. We need to get involved with this organization. I don't know what it was initially. Maybe it was the fact that they were building things out of wood, and I like woodworking as a hobby, or if it was just the mission of having children of my own, realizing that there was even a problem of child bedlessness. This fact that there's kids right in our community that are sleeping on floors or piles of clothes or couches or things that are not beds, and realizing that was a problem and that it was really easy to do something. I turned to my wife and I said, we're doing this, which surprised me even coming out of my mouth at first. But that's where the catalyst was. And from there, it just exploded.
So something good can come from mindlessly scrolling on Facebook.
Yes, that's true. I guess I didn't look at it that way, but yeah.
It's 99%, a complete waste of time. But every now and then.
Yeah, if it's Mike Rowe, I guess it's pretty good then, right?
So from your life up to that point, was there anything that, other than just kind of woodworking kind of being a hobby, that you're like, that was kind of a running theme in your life where you look for opportunities to get in and help? I mean, or is that just completely out of the blue? It came from left field.
A little bit from left field, to be perfectly honest. I'm involved. We've been in churches everywhere we've been. We've been involved with, mission teams and things like that. But I wouldn't say to any great degree, dabbled here and there, but I think being so transient, I think I've always had a fear of getting too involved, committing to something and then not being able to follow through.
Because you knew you weren't in control of how long you were there.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, 2 years, and then even some of the jobs, it just didn't have the time. I mean, it was just too much demand. But I think coming to Georgia, we found this about a year into being here. And kind of realizing it, to be perfectly honest, that I think Georgia was, we kind of knew at the time that it could very well be where we wound up staying. And this would be my last duty station and before retirement. And I think that almost gave me the permission to allow my mind to wander in that direction, and just be able to say, yeah, we can give back. I mean, so many people have given to us over the years and just poured into our lives. And I think there was just this trigger of, yes, like God just kind of nudging me and saying, this you need to do this.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think that it was anything that had really been a spark in me before, but something about the mission, something about just what they were able to do and the immediate life-changing impact that a bed can provide, and realizing that, I was like, we're doing this.
Yeah. So what was your wife's response?
She said, okay. I mean, she looked at me. She's
and what is this?
Yeah,
that we are doing now.
She's amazing. My wife is the most supportive person. She has gone along on this crazy Marine Corps ride. Ever since she married into the Marine Corps. Right. So, when we got married 12 years ago, she knew what she was getting into. She had every opportunity to walk away, but she embraced it. But she has just been, I think she's used to my crazy ideas and just kind of, spur of the moment thinking sometimes. But she's just hugely supportive. And she's a big part of, the fact that we're even, off the ground as a chapter. I mean, she's the... She likes to say it. She's the how to my wow. So I have this crazy idea, and then she's the one that actually figures out how to put it together.
That is great. So give us a little history on Sleep in Heavenly Peace. How it started. It's in how many states now?
So it's in. I don't know exactly how many states. It might be very close to all 50, but it's in 3 countries. So it's in the United States, Canada, and Bermuda, of all places.
Wow.
There's more than 200 chapters nationwide. There's 8 chapters right in Georgia. It started in 2012 in Twin Falls, Idaho. Luke Mickelson, who's the founder of SHP, was in his garage just doing a service project with some kids, and through he had no previous woodworking experience, just found there was a need and put this thing out on Facebook, said, hey, I have this bed, does anybody need it? And immediately, instead of finding people that needed the bed, he found people just jumping on and wanting to help out. And I think almost like, I wouldn't say reluctant by any stretch, but what I would almost say is that he fell into this and realized that there was a need that he didn't realize was there.
Yeah.
And just said, oh my goodness, there's people in my own community that don't have beds.
Yeah.
And said, well, we're going to do something about it. It was very similar to when we said we're going to do something. And it just grew from there. I think it started to be very local. There was maybe 10 chapters in that region, just some close friends of his, and wanting to jump in and help out. And then it wasn't until 2018, February of 2018, when Returning the Favor featured him, the organization exploded.
I was going to say
overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, if Mike Rowe comes in.
Yeah, if Mike Rowe comes, you need somebody to help field some phone calls.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened. And I think that was the purpose of the show, of Returning the Favor, was to feature people that were doing good things that may not have the recognition,
or the exposure.
Exposure. Exactly. I think that's a better word, because I mean, Luke is definitely not looking for the attention as much, but he's just so passionate about this. So when he was featured and highlighted overnight, this organization exploded. And I mean, that's how we got to know about it, and that's sort of how a lot of chapter presidents started was thanks to that show.
Cool. So tell us a little about what you do on your build days, what the involvement is, because I know there's probably a couple different groups of people, but I know a lot of people, it is they hesitate and ultimately never end up getting involved in anything because of exactly kind of what you described with Marine Corps, always moving around, feeling like you're gonna want to commit and get involved, but life happens, kids get sick, school. I mean, right now it's like pandemic, just crazy schedules that no one has ever dealt with, and I think a lot of people that are good-hearted and wanting to do things don't want to have that fear of letting people down, and so it stops them from doing anything. So can you share kind of where somebody theoretically, let's say, wants to be involved? What are the levels of involvement? What is the time commitment, background skills? If somebody's never run a skill saw in their life or something like that, can they still get involved and help, and in what capacities, and just kind of go through that?
Sure. So the great thing about Sleep in Heavenly Peace is that each chapter runs independent as an independent chapter. So everything that we do, our fundraising and all of that, stays in Gwinnett County. And so it's very much this idea that the community comes together to help its own. The motto of Sleep in Heavenly Peace is, no kid sleeps on the floor in our town. And we take that to heart, saying, okay, hey, as a community, we have a responsibility, or at least we need to help these kids that are one, we have to make people aware of that there is actually this problem,
right,
believe it or not, in some very places where you wouldn't even think that there was bedlessness.
Right.
To, hey, why don't you help, either through just doing a bedding drive or actually coming out to a build day. So the whole premise of what we do is these beds are built. These aren't things that you buy off the shelf. These are beds that are built from lumber that you get off the rack at Lowe's, and the community comes together and builds them. So we facilitate that build. We help people fundraise, and then we bring them together to do a build day. So what that would look like is a group would come out, and we would teach them. We would say, this is a sander, this is a drill if you've never touched one, this is how you put the bed together. We'll help you run the saw, we'll help you run the drill press, and we'll walk you through this process. But when a lot of hands come together to do one little thing, this final product very quickly can be put together without much experience needed at all.
Right.
So, I mean, we've done builds with teenagers that have, maybe picked up maybe know what a drill is, and to, experienced woodworkers. But it doesn't matter. It's more the heart. It's more just getting involved and getting your hands on the product. So that's one way. I know that, for example, we've done bedding drives at schools and through Keller Williams and all of these just different organizations around, where they know that these beds, when we deliver them, they come with a mattress, they come with the bedding, a pillow, everything the kid needs at no cost. Well, somebody has to provide that. So these bedding drives are a great way for people to they're at Target and they see a sale on some bedding, picking it up and dropping it off to us is, I mean, it helps in immense ways.
Yeah.
And then the final part, which is probably the most, I guess, heart-wrenching in a way, but is the delivery. We, as volunteers, we have to go out and put these beds into homes, and I can't do it by myself.
Right.
And we want the community to be involved. We want people to see what is going on, and then also to be a part of that change.
Yeah.
So there's levels of involvement from, just sending in money, making a donation to help provide a bed, or help provide the materials, to actually getting your hands on, to organizing a build day and sponsoring one, to to delivering or providing bedding. So
yeah,
all across the
yeah. So and that's So literally, if somebody is working in downtown Atlanta, they're working 70 hours a week. They just don't have time. They barely have time to see their family. They could do something as simple as a monthly donation or cutting a check if they have a big sale or an account closes or whatever, and that goes into a tangible need in that community. And for I'm helping seemingly a lot of clients in their retirement years right now that are, it's like I've got young clients and I've got old I want to say old clients, older than me right now clients,
Sure,
because I'm getting up there. But there's a lot of people that have are in the generation, the baby boomer generation, where they have so many I don't say like life skills, but they know how to build things. They know how to fix things. These are people who know what a flywheel is on a car. They they worked on their own cars for years and years. And this is something that I think a lot of people that are in that generation that are looking for opportunities to do something constructive in retirement, and provide, like you said, a material and unknown need right in their community, would be all over. That's part of the whole heart of doing this podcast, is to connect people that are in those spaces, whether they're just have the intent but don't have the time, or they have the time and a lot of it.
Yeah.
that anywhere in that gap they can come and plug in with organizations like yours and do something to really impact our community in a positive way. And I think what I gather is some of the bonds and the friendships and the relationships become the strongest ones that you may have ever had in your life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to kind of touch on your point where you have maybe not the time, but you have the heart. 3 hours on a Saturday is all you need to change 10 kids' lives forever. I mean, a build day's typically 3 hours, or shift is 3 hours long, and you can go in and make significant change. But to your other point, so maybe people going into their retirement years and everything. I mean, I have a core team that of about 15 volunteers that I can call on just about any time, and they are there to do a build, help facilitate. They're the ones that have the most experience with these build days and help the newcomers understand what's going on, or they help with the deliveries at the drop of a hat. I mean, some of these deliveries are emergencies that we have 24 hours before that kid goes into foster care to help preserve a family, and I can call on them. So there's a couple that are, or more than a couple, that are just in their retirement years and always just available and ready to help. There's some that are have grown children, so they have a little bit more time on their hands, and then younger families as well. That it's just it's fun to get our families together and build some beds together.
Yeah.
But so it runs the spectrum. But
so back from the episode last year with Gene and Promise 686. I didn't realize until we had kind of started launching into the different layers of foster care and support services and stuff like that kids can go into foster care for as simple things as not having things like a bed. There's not enough good foster homes in every community for kids to really be in a positive, safe, constructive place. Everybody wants to be, for the most part, with their family, and they can be taken from their family for simple things like not having a bed. So when Jean said that last year, I was like, I had no idea, like literally, like that's from like Jupiter, like not even a concept that was a thing. But it's a thing.
It is, and I don't think I realized it either. So Jean goes to the same church I do, and she introduced me to that program, to Promise 686, and the care portal that she has in the organization of churches, and the idea and then the knowledge that, well, one, that family preservation is such an important aspect of the foster care system, so you don't, I guess, overburden it. But then it's better for a kid to be in their biological home, even if it's not the best situation, because once a kid goes into foster care, it's really hard for them to get out of that loop. And so providing something like a bed, when I say like you make a tangible, life-changing impact on somebody, providing a bed could keep that family together. It could be the one thing. I mean, a lot of families, it's not, a lot of these families, they just fell on hard times. It's not that they're bad families or bad parents. Right. It's just bad situations, or, you know, they just came on hard times, and, you know, a bed, they're expensive.
Yeah.
And to be able to provide that need and keep that family together with a single mother who's trying every single day and is doing everything she can to keep their family together. I mean, geez, here's a bed.
It's like, what do you do? Fix the car or buy a bed?
Right.
You know,
and that's exactly what it is. And go fix your car.
Right.
Or go do what you have to do. Don't worry about this. Your child will sleep well. You will meet that, what they call a tier 1 need, and your family will stay together. And to think about that, to walk that out, you know, several years, that could be that moment that child, you know, it was the difference between whether they went into a foster care system and not that it's bad. I mean, they're great families. I mean, you know, my parents were foster parents, and we had foster brothers and sisters growing up for several years, and it's great. But I mean, it's hard on those kids, and so to keep them there is, I don't know. I think it's a big part of the foster system is to prevent kids from getting to that point.
I don't know if there's a best story or something that you think about as kind of like a hallmark moment in what you've done already, or maybe just in the organization itself. Any of those, because you are in our local North Georgia community, that you can share with, you know, obviously anonymous, but anything stand out from your own experience?
Well, two quick stories, and one is sort of how this whole thing got started, and then the other one's how it's impacted families in the area. When I kind of announced and reached out to our church initially saying, hey, I need some help. We were pretty new to the area. You know, we hadn't been in North Georgia all that long. We were still getting to know the area and getting to know the people. So I put a call out on Facebook once I knew that I had started the application process and said, I'm doing this. I put it out there, and it was my church family that really jumped on immediately, overwhelmingly. You know, I had one friend, Kevin Clement, just saw the post and immediately shared it with his network within the church. And before I knew it, you know, we had, you know, Laura Dar and Stacy DeRogatis and you know, Todd Randolph and Gene Rector, all of these people from our church just jumped in and said, how can we help? Without them, I wouldn't have made the initial connections that I needed to in order to fundraise and to go to the chapter president training and start all of that. So just to see that small but mighty church of ours, you know, jump in and just surround it and just lift up this organization, even before it was even an official chapter, was just an incredible testament to, you know, God's timing and his will for us, and just kind of saying, yes, go do this. This is what I want you to be doing. I think it was really reaffirming in that sense. But then as we have gone and started to do this, I got this call for a bed request from a school counselor at Baggett Elementary in Lawrenceville. And she said there's this family, they've 4 children, single mother, and they lost everything in a fire in their apartment building. And she basically had to start over. And can you help out? And she had just learned about Sleep in Heavenly Peace that day. So,
wow.
And so when she heard about the need and then heard about our organization, you know, one of those God moments for her, and she reached out, and within, you know, a couple of days we had beds for her, you know, for this family. And that alone was just a very memorable experience to walk in and see the kids' faces and see the mom, just that sigh of relief that, she had a place for her kids to sleep. But, Amber Fisher, who's the school counselor, and I got to talking, and we're both kind of big idea people a little bit. And I guess that's not a good thing, or it's a great thing when two people.
It's great when you have your wife that's the how person, right?
Well, we came up with this thing, and I told my wife later. I said, "Hey, so we got to this idea. Well, if we could do it for this one family, why can't we do it for the rest? Within your school?" And she's like, "Let's do this big build." And I have my brother might be able to help out and help pave the way for some of this to happen. Which I was a little confused by that comment, but so it turns out her brother is the general manager of the Suwannee Lowe's. Lowe's has a program, and by the way, Sleep in Heavenly Peace in the Lowe's National Partnership is like this massive thing.
Wow.
So the fact that her brother was a general manager, and Lowe's has these hero funds that they can use to do community service projects. And she's like, let me talk to him and see if maybe we can organize a little bit of a build. Well, 10 minutes later, she calls back. She's like, I got 10 stores on board.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, what do you think about doing doing a build for our school, but then also helping out maybe some victims of the Hurricane Michael down in Florida? Sleep in Heavenly Peace has a national disaster fund that some of the money can be diverted, can be donated specifically to help in recovery of natural disasters. So this became this thing where we're going to build 200 beds on one day, and we're going to involve 4 chapters of SHP, and we're going to do it right in the parking lot of Bagot Elementary, and we've got a couple, less than 2 months to plan this, but we're going to do it.
No big deal.
No big deal. Her brother just jumped in. Her brother, coincidentally, was the first person I walked to and said, hey, would you consider helping with maybe pulling together our tool list? I mean, there's an initial outpouring of quite a bit of money to get all the tools that you need, drills and sanders and saws and all this. And he's like, absolutely. And he jumped right in and hooked us up with, great deal. And in the fact that it all came full circle, and then he came and helped basically he funded the entire build for 200 beds to help, again, Hurricane Michael victims down in Florida, in Mexico Beach area, and then just in our community. So we had more than 350 volunteers show up in October.
Wow.
And we did 6 hours. We had the chapter from Tallahassee, Florida, drive up and help. We had the Atlanta the in-town Atlanta chapter, and then the Etowah Valley chapter of Sleep in Heavenly Peace came out, and they built with us. And it was just an unbelievable sight to see just lumber going from these big stacks at one end to finished products getting loaded into storage units and at the other. And all of those beds were delivered by Christmas. Like we kept about 60, and nearly all of them were delivered before Christmas. So between the October build and Christmas time, we delivered most of those to those families. We had pulled a list together from Bagot and from Lilburn Elementary, and then the Tallahassee chapter put the beds down in Florida and got those all delivered. So I mean, in just a couple of people saying, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we did this, or wouldn't it be great, turned into 200 kids off the floor.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good story. Man. Okay, so you've been in Georgia now how long?
Just over 2 years.
Okay. So not too long, but any favorite places, favorite things to do here in our North Georgia region you guys like to do?
Sentimentally, we love Suwannee Town Center.
Yes.
And then Lake Lanier. We live right near the lake, and we love going to the beach and just walking around there.
Yeah.
Suwannee Town Center, when I came down to house hunt, when I was still stationed in New York State, I was a Marine Corps recruiter up there, and we knew we were coming here. So I flew down a few weeks before we were supposed to move, and we had to find a place. And it's a process that we go through every move. And we sort of pinpointed a lot of research, and we sort of pinpointed the North Georgia area as like where we wanted to be in North Gwinnett. And I land in Atlanta. I drive up, and I'm staying in an Airbnb like right off the town center. And I walk into the town center, and I call my wife right away, and I was like, "This is it. This is the place." Like. It was right when the blooms were blossoming on the trees, and everybody was out on the lawn just throwing Frisbees around, and it just had this community feel. that we've experienced, but we were craving for this move to Georgia. We were definitely wanting to be in a community like that, and just realizing like all the trails that came right off of it and all the events. I called her up right away. I said, "You've got to check this place out. This is awesome. This is what we've been looking for." So we go there quite a bit, especially when they were doing outdoor events and the summer concert series and the farmers market we've been to.
Yep.
So that has a special place in our hearts, and then we just love being around the lake. It's just such a neat place to be. Being really close to the beach, we can be in the water in less than 10 minutes. So
right.
we just love being there.
It's a good spot.
Yeah, it's a good spot to be.
Yeah. For those of you who remember, the Nora Lee and the Livingwell GA market are right there on the corner of the property on the Suwannee Town Center. So just short sidebar. She sends great emails out every week, and there's always new products that they're featuring. It's all local, Georgia grown, small businesses, farmers, stuff like that. So if you're not already on the email list, you should get on that email list as well. So it's one of the few emails that I get recurringly that I actually look at and like looking at. Assuming you stay here in Georgia, which I know is the goal and the hope, the next 5-10 years or so, do you had any big idea, big visions that your wife's trying to work out? The logistics on that?
Yeah, she can find me a job. No, yeah. So in the next 5-10 years, I think it's all in God's hands. But we're looking at making a transition probably by this time next year. We'll probably be transitioning out of the military and looking to what's next. As of right now, I mean, we've planted some roots in this area. We bought our first house in here. This is the first time we've ever been homeowners, so we're loving. We love it here. We love the people. We love the community. Our hearts were taken by this place.
Yeah.
And I think as long as God calls us to stay here, we're going to. And I think that SHP is going to be a big part of that. Gwinnett County is a massive county, and there's a massive need. And my goal is to see us be able to meet that need. One, to make people aware that there's a problem. More importantly, not so much. I mean, donations and volunteers are fantastic, and I will never turn either one of those away. But I want to find the families that don't have beds. And that's everything we do means nothing if those beds just sit in a storage unit.
Right.
They have to go into homes. And to make people aware that there is a service out there and there's people that are willing to give you a bed with no obligation,
just need to raise your hand.
Just need to raise your hand and ask for it. I want that to be known.
Yeah.
And then to be able to meet that need, Gwinnett County, like I said, is huge, and the need I know is huge. We've only scratched the surface. We've delivered, as of 2 days ago, was our last delivery, and we've delivered 99 beds in just about a year.
Wow!
And like I said, that's just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
That's not even putting out. That's not even a huge campaign for awareness or anything like that. That is just the need that has organically risen from just our conversations and. I want to go meet that need.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to divert for a quick second to the lightning round, which is a question before we get into how people find you, when the next build is, and stuff like that. Lightning round is a question that has nothing to do with anything. It's just a fun question. So today's, because we're in the same generation and era, I figured you could have a good insight on this lightning round question. So the question, the subject is Nintendo Power. Now, some of you don't even have a clue what Nintendo Power is, but it was the magazine of all magazines when we were in elementary school. It had the secret codes, the secret places where the coins and the weapons and things like that on the video games were. And we never had Nintendo. We had a Sega at one point, and all my friends that had Nintendo, it was like this club I was not a part of. But all right, so which original Nintendo game were you better at? Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Duck Hunt, or Contra?
Oh, man. Probably Duck Hunt.
Okay.
So I am not very good at video games, period. We did have an original Nintendo when I was a kid. I remember getting it as a birthday gift from my grandmother. And this is just to show how bad I am at video games. I have admittedly, shamelessly, I have never beaten Super Mario Brothers.
I haven't either.
Yeah, like I think like people do speed runs and they can beat it in minutes, and I've never been able to beat it. It's too hard.
No.
But I used to put the light gun up against the screen and I could shoot all the birds. So it was like cheating. That's the only way I would say I was better at that.
I never thought about doing that. We didn't like I said, we didn't have a Nintendo, so it was Duck Hunt was always all of these games were always at someone else's house. So I never got good enough at them. And obviously, Nintendo is proprietary to Mario, so I never did have Mario to be able to practice enough to beat it. I could usually only get about 3 or 4 people in on Mike Tyson's Punch-Out before I got smoked.
Exactly.
And Contra was one of those. I would get further playing with friends that had it and knew what to do. But if some of you are already ahead of me right here. You know what the code was to get, was it 30 or 40 lives or whatever?
30 lives.
Yeah.
Up, down, left, right, BA start.
Right. Like, that is the magic of the human brain. If you will, there's probably a good, several good life lessons. If you just practice on repetition, if nothing else, your brain will forever ingrain things that you have absolutely no care about maintaining them in your brain. So everybody that is in our generation, you already knew what the code was for Contra. And how? How do we still remember that? I can't remember what I did this week. So, but I can remember that from 30 years ago. All right. So how do people find out more about SHP? When's your next build? Somebody that is, they're like, I want to get involved. I don't know to what level yet, or maybe they're all in. Tell me when to sign up. Tell me where to be. How do people find you? How do people connect with your organization? Where are you going to be? Do you have set dates that you do builds on? All sorts of stuff like that.
Sure. So the main website for the entire organization is shpbeds.org.
Okay.
We're one of the chapters. You can go find a chapter, and you can go down to and find us on there. We're on Facebook. That's probably where we communicate the most as far as our chapter. So that's facebook.com/SHP Gwinnett Co. For Gwinnett County. And you can find us right there. There's a link to donate that'll send you to our Donor Perfect page right from Facebook. You can donate directly to our chapter off of the SHP page too. If you navigate to our chapter page there. That'll send you right to our Donor Perfect.
And people who are listening to this, you said there's an Etowah chapter as well. So people that are in other counties,
yes,
they can look up SHP. What's the main website?
shpbeds.org.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if you go down to go find my chapter or locate a chapter. You'll go down and see all the Georgia chapters. Like I said, there's 8 of them. There's one up in Dawsonville. There's one I think just outside of Cleveland. In town Atlanta, Gwinnett County, we're well represented. Well, Georgians love to serve people, I think, is the takeaway from that. But there's a lot of fantastic groups. And the thing is you can donate to a specific chapter, or you can donate overall. All the money that you donate to, say, Gwinnett County, stays in Gwinnett County. It's ours to use to build beds, to provide bedding, and to deliver and make an immediate impact to kids in our community. The other thing was that our next build is coming up on September 26th.
Okay.
It's called Bunks Across America. This is the second time we've done it. We had to delay it because of COVID this year. It normally falls in June. But as many chapters as they can across the country are going to build beds on the same day.
Wow.
We're going to do it at Lawrenceville United Methodist Church.
Okay.
Probably from 10 to 4. We're working at the exact details. We're going to have a sign-up sheet. We have to maintain group social distancing, in the COVID precautions. So I think we're going to do 2 shifts, and we're going to have sign-up. So be looking on our Facebook page. We're going to have the announcements made there. But if you want to reach out to us through those channels, and you just want to, you have a question, or you have some new bedding that you would like to donate, or things like that, we can facilitate it through the Facebook page.
Awesome. Well, Brian, I know you got a busy Saturday. I do too. I can't believe how busy my Saturday. I told my wife, I'm like, I'll see you tonight. I'm like, leaving. I'm going to show houses. I got a client event. I got, probably another client that I'm going to have to show houses to after that. So, yeah, we got busy lives. I'm thankful we were talking about before we started. I'm thankful to be in Georgia, where we're at least able to stretch our legs a little bit compared to some other places in the country. So, for those of you who need good stuff to do and you've not gone back and listened to prior episodes, that's the whole point of this podcast, to give you an insider scoop on some places to go out and explore, enjoy, and make some new memories with the people that you can hang out with right now. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Brian, thanks for your time, and highly encourage you to check out the organization and get plugged in our community.
Great, thank you.
Cool. This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.